Hello everyone! Finally, the long-awaited third part of episode 70 got released, and I am really happy about that. It seems like a whole eternity had passed since the previous part of the episode came out. So today I'm finally back to analyzing this episode for you and finding all the secrets and Easter eggs that you have certainly missed. And let me just say that today's episode was just insane. Not only it's the longest episode so far, but it's also the craziest one in terms of plot and drama. Who actually died in this part, and why did it happen? What secrets the secret agent kept from us for so long? And why the hell did Lucky Cameraman stay alive? And what new insane piece of lore did we learn about? Get your tea and snacks ready and prepare to watch this video to the end, because you're surely about to get to a crazy ride. Let's go! The episode starts with the same scene from the ending of the second part of episode 70, where two of the last survivors of the elite infiltration squad, POV Plungerman and his road buddy, the Dark Speakerman, are getting ready for the final fight. The scene where POV Plungerman uses the remote controller that he took from the lifeless body of the Lucky Cameraman in order to open the door stayed the same. But look at this destroyed Skibidi toilet with tentacles. In the second part of the episode, there was shattered glass all over the floor near his body. But in the third part, the floor is absolutely clean. And also, in the renewed scene, someone is banging on the other side of the door with an emblem of 3 toilets. While in the second part, POV Plungerman flew down the corridor straight away. Looking round the corner, POV sees the giant gray door, which has a sign written on it, which says Containment and Lockdown, which probably refers to the Skibidi virus. Also, there's a classic picture of a DNA molecular chain, and that means that behind this door, our agents are about to find the primal source of that virus, and the most important information about it so far. And in the end of the corridor, POV notices one of the Skibidi guards, who simply passes away the 2 intruders, which seems to be really suspicious. But I'll talk more about it a little bit later. Then the door opens, and as POV moves closer to it, the green-colored glitches start messing up with his head camera once again, and we see the already well-known phrases at the right upper corner of the screen: transmission error and recording error. This obviously means that the secret agent is closer than ever, and the main goal of the whole Alliance's special mission is near. So another Skibidi guard comes out of that door, and he looks pretty intimidating by his appearance, and he would be a tough opponent blocking the way for our guys that already experienced a lot in the previous part of the episode. But strangely enough, he simply passes these 2 intruders by, and just a second after, we realized an astonishing thing. Both POV Plungerman and the Dark Speakerman became invisible. What in the actual heck? Did all the Skibidi creators become kind of obsessed with all this invisibility thing? Or am I seeing things at this point? For example, Dom Studio just released his newest episode for Multiverse series, and in there, invisibility mode appeared, and it played a special plot in the plot of the series. In Dom's multiverse, it worked that way. When the cameraman in the blue suit put a special pen containing so-called invisibility ink into a specific device, and boom, then magic happened and he started being invisible. Is this a coincidence, though, that a similar thing appeared in the original series as well, just a few days after the new Multiverses episode release? It's actually pretty difficult to say for sure, because it may not be really connected with the invisibility, but with something much more intriguing. Do you guys remember those 2 ghosts of cameramen that got destroyed by Skibidi Jackson in the first part of episode 69? We could briefly see their silhouettes afterwards in the elevator, at the end of the first part of episode 70. I have a certain theory about all of this, but in order to reveal it, you've got to watch this video to the end, because something really insane appears in there, so I saved it for later. What kind of surprised me in here, though, is that the Dark Speakerman didn't seem to be bothered with what just happened to him at all. Could he know about this coming? I don't think so, because POV Plungerman didn't expect it at all. That's why he was so flabbergasted while looking at his hands. But the Dark Plungerman didn't even pay attention to the fact that Skibidi guard moved past him as if he didn't see him, and to the fact that all of his body became transparent for a second. Interestingly enough, by the way, he turned back to the normal state right after the Skibidi guard left, which means that this invisibility mode had been controlled by someone with just one goal: to give those 2 an opportunity to enter this door without any hindrances on their way. And obviously it seems to be the secret agent, because we already discussed multiple times how he is connected to all of this. and that these errors and green glitches on the screen are the signs of his closer presence. Also, there's the cameraman with the green tie peeking from the corner in front of POV. And yes, this is one of 2 cameramen that were crushed by Skibidi Jackson, and he's transparent as well. Besides that, he's got the bright green detail under his head camera, which wasn't there before. A similar thing only Plungerman has, and it's blue, similarly to Camera Woman's camera. So, it turns out that these 2 cameramen with green ties didn't die after all, and they are not ghosts but something else. But who exactly? We'll find it out later as you'll keep watching the video. While POV is looking at the unexpected guest in confusion, the dark speakerman once again doesn't show any signs of surprise and makes POV to even hurry up and finally enter the room behind the giant gray door. And in there, we see something absolutely insane. We see the Skibidi scientist standing with his back to POV, and on the giant screen in front of his face, there's the secret agent almost in flesh. Unfortunately, POV came when the mysterious talk between Boom and Skibidi scientist ended already. So the secret agent says goodbye, and the screen changes its color from green to blue. But before POV entered the room, we could hear the secret agent say, "You are not good." And then he says another phase, but it's really difficult to discern what he says in there. But it sounds something like, "You have once been my little boy." But what he says next is really indistinguishable. But one thing is certain here, the secret agent is in the higher position than Skibidi scientist. And it seems like scientist followed the orders from him all along. He was pretty useful to him, but then apparently, he disappointed the secret agent greatly. And that's why he told him that he's not good anymore. And it makes sense considering what's about to happen with scientist next. After such an uneasy working call with the boss, Skibidi scientist turns around to POV and smiles maliciously, as if nothing happened, and he's all set and ready to fight. But it still looks pretty dangerous with 4 spider-like metal legs it sits in, 2 advanced claws, powerful jetpacks, and most importantly, the lasers that he got, similar to the ones that G-Man from episode 57 had, in terms of firepower. At this moment, POV closes the door, because as he and his friends stopped being invisible, the reinforcements were about to come for Skibidi scientist, so Plungerman decided to cut it right away. But besides those upgrades, scientist also has some sort of control panel on his chest, using which he manages to control this whole laboratory room. Fortunately, POV manages to shut down the giant laser with his controller as well, but another one still hits him and deals some damage. In the middle of the heat, Skibidi scientist makes an attempt to escape, but the hand of POV holding the remote controller still acts much quicker. Then scientist tries to teleport with the usage of his panel, and to me, it looks like except for the terrifying red glow from TV screen, the Skibidi army also stole the teleportation technique. And we could also remember scientist using it in episode 60. So what if those 2 books with TV screens on their covers, which we saw in the previous part of the episode, actually contain all the secrets about TV men's technologies and abilities? But I think that it's a topic for another video. POV cuts the scientist's escape plan once more, and the guy seems to be really angered at this point. He pulls out another laser on his back and shoots at POV, who was already injured. POV dodges the attack, but it seems to me that some damage was still done to him here. And I think scientist would hurt him even more if it wasn't for the dark Plungerman that saves his buddy's life once again by throwing the spear at scientist and distracting him. Then he rushes straight at the enemy with his knives ready, and POV Plungerman hurries to help as well. And then, something really shocking happens. POV gets thrown away by some unknown force, and during that, his camera glitches badly, firstly with blue interruptions, but then they change to red. It seems like POV Plungerman was simply not allowed to help him comrade, and the consequences came fast, as our favorite dark speakerman gets cut into 2 halves with scientist's giant claw, and we see a bunch of sparkles during that. Scientist throws away both of those parts one by one as if speakerman was just a broken toy, and enraged POV rushes at him, while we could see the upper speakerman's half in the background, with his speaker still glowing bright red, meaning that he stayed alive. And as scientist gets ready to finish him, the speakerman launches at the jerk once again, putting a knife in his face and breaking his glasses. POV uses the perfect opportunity to throw the plunger right at the scientist's eye, making him repeat the same fate. Remember how the exact same eye was damaged in episode 67? The blood splashes after this, proving once again that this scientist is the original one, and not the puppet. Then POV is about to receive another laser attack, so he covers himself with a rifle, similarly to how Titan cameraman tried to cover himself from the explosion in episode 65. It seems to be the end for both Plungerman and Speakerman, and the second guy didn't lose an opportunity to show his disrespect to Scientist, even being cut at 2. What a freaking Chad. And unfortunately, this was his final gesture, as Scientist then literally pieces him with a laser. The evil is almost won, but just in the second the freak tries to escape, the reinforcements arrive through that one door that POV closed earlier. We've got to see our old friend in there, the big TV man accompanied by a bunch of upgraded cameramen. The big TV man says, "My apology," apparently referring to the fact that he and his team has come too late. Yeah, bad. You should kind of be sorry for that. Why couldn't you hurry up? It would make such a big difference. But what happened next just blew my mind. The damn big TV man just sucked out the black smoke and stopped the scientist from teleporting. This is the first time I've ever seen this ability, and it looks so cool, I had no idea it was even freaking possible. By the way, notice that TV Man has 4 speakers on the sides instead of the familiar 4 TVs he used to have. And now scientists decided to use the real heavy artillery, namely another giant puppet of his, which seems to be even more monstrous and enhanced, with 4 huge lasers on sides. Besides, this puppet has sunglasses on, preventing it from getting under the influence of TV Man's glow. And it seemed to scare the big TV man off, and he says something like, "Go back now." Another door immediately opened, and the more elite squad joined the fight, consisting of our favorite female trio and the big cameraman with plasma minigun, who was POV in the previous part of the episode. He launches a powerful blow at Scientist from the back, and oh my god, just look at this. The minigun power is so great that with its shot, a burning hole has been made in his hull, revealing his innards. The crazy fight goes on, and Scientist manages to knock the big cameraman to the ground, and he started smiling viciously, similarly in the way he did in the beginning of the second part of episode 67. This prick thinks he already won, doesn't he? Well, just a second later, a terrifying truth comes to him, and he starts screaming in agony because all 3 gorgeous ladies snapped at him at once by reaching to him from the hole that was made in him that allowed them to get to the original sitting inside. He tries to break free, but we can already tell it's the end for him. Just look at this disgusting creature in this exact moment. In the final attempt to escape, he rushes towards the alternative exit used by the big boys, and unfortunately for this prick, the big boys were really waiting for him right there. Oh my god, I feel the taste of revenge now. It seems like we see the reciprocated moment from episode 35. And what happens next, I can only characterize as the brutal gang beating. I mean, observe the whole scene by yourself. It's really tough, although I feel no sorry for Scientist at all, and he got what he exactly deserved. Titan Speakerman was not the kindest to him, and I mean it, and it's perfectly understandable, considering that the Scientist was the one responsible for this Titan's torture for so long. So, in the end, there's only a hot pile of screwed metal debris left from the Scientist. The big TV man appears once again and says another phrase that sounds like, oh, just listen it for yourself. I think he said something about squash, yeah? The never-ending battle seems to be finally won, so POV can take off the lens that was given to him by the brave big cameraman that was the second victim to pass away in the bunker. And oh, by the way, speaking of victims, unfortunately it's time for another emotional scene. And honestly guys, my heart cannot endure more heartbreaks any longer. Boom! Can you have mercy on our poor souls? The injured Plungerman crawls toward the dark speakerman and holds his hand, and his comrade passes right in front of him. I cannot even express with the words how painful this scene was. 2 comrades that nearly became enemies due to the moral conflict got closer than ever in the matter of days, and in the very end turned out to be the real soulmates. Just think about how many times the Dark Speakerman saved Plungerman. This is just cruel and heartbreaking. But then, the emotional moment gets interrupted by something actually terrifying. The Plungerman's camera glitches again, and the same errors appear. And afterwards, ahead of him, he sees no other than the white terracotta brother. who was lying lifeless before his eyes just in the beginning of today's episode. He literally looks like Lazarus that got resurrected from the world of shadows. And the creepy music makes this whole encounter even more unsettling. I literally got goosebumps when I saw it. Lucky Cameraman lives to his title once more, and I make an accent on the word lives at the moment. He then turns around and vanishes in the thin air. But the craziness does not stop there. As POV looks to the right, he saw two of the cameramen that we all considered to be unalive a few episodes ago. They shook each other's hands, and it seems like everything that was happening just now was one big, long-planned setup. They both synchronously look at POV, and the green lights turn on under their head cameras, blinding Plungerman and messing up with his mind. The scene reminded me of the movie called Men in Black a bit, where the similar visual effect had been produced on people by the special device that super agents used in order to erase their memories. But instead of erasing his memory, POV Plungerman receives a certain visual message via those cameramen's devices, and we see a mind-blowing sequence. We're observing the secret agent sitting at the table, and there's pitch dark anywhere besides the table itself. It looks like we got ourselves in a simulation right now, where only the necessary attributes of the scenery are present, and the rest of the world simply doesn't exist. And by the way, let's focus on his table for a moment because there's plenty of things to pay attention to. First of all, there's the gray speaker, most likely belonging to that one famous gray-suited speakerman that firstly appeared in episode 24 and used to be a running gag throughout the whole series. Near that speaker, there's the camera, which doesn't really look special, as it seems to be the ordinary cameraman's camera with the flashlight underneath. But what attracted my attention the most was that computer monitor, that may be a reference to episode 44, as at the moment of its release. There were tons of speculations about the appearance of the new race computermen, that were supposed to have these exact monitors instead of their heads. Also, there is a green folder laying on the desk, and I bet it contains some MK Ultra level of secrets, and there's the second remote controller near them, similar to the one that was given to Lucky Cameraman. And it only proved my initial thought that the secret agent controlled everything that was happening in the bunker from the start. Then, the secret agent looks straight into POV's soul and says that with his help, Scientist is gone. But there's a bigger threat that's awaiting the Alliance ahead. And in that moment, a large image of Astro Toilet's face appears on the screen. And that actually proves my long-told theory about how the Astro Toilets will push the plot of Skibidi Toilets further, and probably into space. As I'm saying pretty often, it always feels good to be right. And then, the secret agent pronounces the most mysterious phase of all. That's why some things have to be made secret. But what exactly did he refer to? He elaborates on that just a second later, and it blows my mind. The secret agent says that there is no evidence about what happened, left, except for only one thing. And here he means Plungerman himself, who had been recording everything in the bunker since the very start. He adds that this time Plungerman will not survive this battle. And to our mutual shock, so it actually happens. And as Plungerman comes back to his senses, the sign on his screen changes to critical damage, and he begins losing the last drops of life in his body. Camera woman and TV woman are looking at their friend with horror and grief, and honestly, I feel just the same in that moment. And for the very last time, he looks up at Titan Cameraman and gives him a thumbs up, the final gesture that defines him perfectly as a character. He then gets embraced with fire, and we see the ending words on the screen, camera offline. And on that tragic note, the episode ends. And oh my god, guys, I don't even know what to say in here. The final part of the 70th episode hit me like a truck, and surely gave me a few emotional traumas that I'll need to deal with later. And also, this part revealed some crazy plot twists, and honestly, I would love to talk about them all. Who were the cameramen in green suits all that time? How did they and the Lucky Cameraman survive, if they were clearly destroyed in the previous episodes, and were they the ordinary cameramen in the first place? What did the secret agent meant by the secrets that are made to be kept private? And how was he connected to Scientist from the start? To answer all of these questions, I'll need some real extra time, so not to make this video too long, I want to create separate videos on those topics. So be sure to subscribe to my channel not to miss my new analyses and the lore videos that I create on the regular basis. And also, don't forget to leave a comment with your own ideas and theories about today's insane episode. And that was me. ISO toilet. See ya!